So every now and then I get asked, what is my most hated video? And I always say the answer depends. See, if we're going by straight likes to dislikes, then I would probably say it's my Assassin's Creed / Afro Samurai video. But that's a different video than what's usually expected of me. And look, I'm an anime fan on the internet. I expected that video to have a high dislike count. However, if we're talking about just straight backlash, I will always maintain that from a comments perspective and not seeing it coming, the video that gets the most hate is the one I made on Modern Isekai. I always found that interesting because it's a video where I definitely received a lot of love, and from a likes to dislike ratio, it does really well. But it's clear that if you hated that video, you really hated that video. So I've always wanted to do a video response on the video in the style of kind of like how I made a video response on my Tamaki video, just to address the backlash. Not because of the backlash itself, but I think it's an interesting conversation on isekai nowadays, because I don't know if you've noticed, but isekai is kind of on its decline. Don't get me wrong, isekai are still a dominant force in the world of anime, but isekai don't get the same kind of attention it once did at the time I made the video. So now, with the isekai boom almost certainly in the rear mirror, it'd be interesting to look at some of my points and some of the backlash to see if my mind's changed on anything. So here's how we're gonna do this. We're gonna basically kind of take the format of the Tamaki response video, where I'll put the comments of the backlash in categories. And the category that's the most valid goes first, the least valid goes last. Alright, so with that long ass intro out of the way, let's get into it. So, you know what's funny with this category? In a lot of ways, I actually agree. So, I was at dinner a couple weeks back with some brethrens and some friends of mine, and one of my friends asked if I'm still making anime videos because, if you haven't noticed, surprise, surprise, I've been inactive for a while for various reasons. Anyway, she talked about how she really liked the isekai video in particular as an isekai fan. But I remember telling her about how mean-spirited the video was, and I didn't like that. And she, in some ways, agreed. For as much as I think I hit the nail on the head, I didn't have to be so harsh with the earlier examples. And it's not just her who's kind of agreed with me on that. I've had emails mention how, for lack of a better term, they were triggered by some of my words when it came to why people like isekai, and generally just classifying isekai fans as losers who need to touch grass. Now, to be honest, my point wasn't to necessarily denigrate or make fun of people's bad experiences being the reason why they watch isekai. My point was more so to explain how your life experiences can make you blind to some of the poor writing quality decisions of the modern isekai genre, as well as you being kind of oblivious to the blatant money grabbing nature of the anime industry when it comes to this specific subgenre. This isn't just an anime fan and isekai thing either. This is a reality TV show craze, the K-drama craze, even shows like Bridgerton are all examples of how directors and people in the film and television industry will take wish fulfillment and insert it into their show or film just a little bit to get a positive reaction out of the viewer, and it gives that respective piece of media staying power. But the problem is when the show is all wish fulfillment at the expense of quality storytelling, and it treats the viewer like it's a consumer, you're oftentimes going to get a bad and dated product. Anime has always had an issue with this, but it's especially blatant now when it comes to isekai in the modern age. Yet somehow it's popular. As a result, me being an objective viewer, it's kind of hard to discern which is worth my time moving forward because I have the foresight to realize that most isekai are not made to last. They are a bunch of money grabs and only go about 12 to 15 episodes, sometimes 20 if lucky. And even if that new isekai gets a season 2, you can almost assuredly tell that season 2 is going to be a drop in quality. Look at Rising of the Shield Hero, look at Overlord, even look at shows like Konosuba as well as Mushoku Tensei, which are considered good isekai. With that being said, how I framed the reason why people like isekai needed work. Honestly, I didn't really have to go there. So yeah, for all those people who said this in the comment section as well as emailed me, you're right, my fault. It's funny because one of the things I said I was going to do with my channel and my platform was, when I felt it necessary, defend anime fans from people who just want to bully them. That's why I'm unapologetically like this. However, my video came with some of that bully anime fans energy, and I didn't like that. But I want to be clear, I don't think the crux of what I'm saying was wrong. I just think there was a way to get my point across without being mean. Okay, moving on to the next category. So this one I won't spend too much time on because I did mention it. However, I will admit when I said it, it was in passing. The problem is not wish fulfillment itself. In fact, a lot of shows do add wish fulfillment, not just to give their show a sense of relatability, but to give the viewer something to identify with. It's just that oftentimes, too much wish fulfillment comes at the expense of the story. Let's say you're a mangaka and you have a character who has to go through an obstacle, look pathetic, and struggle to eventually get the payoff of reaching their goals. There is a significant number of anime fans who hate that because they identify with the main character. So the mangaka who knows this will take the easy way out sometimes. I think that's what separates the Prime Narutos from the Prime Rising of the Shield Heroes and Overlords. And if I may, on an even higher level, I think this is what separates the Berserks and the Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhoods from the Prime Narutos. It's the willingness to make your main character struggle through the obstacles. Not every main character needs to be all powerful, and even the characters that are need to have some sort of struggle. When you have wish fulfillment shows, and the wish fulfillment shows only serve to make you feel good, you're just not going to get good stories. Okay, I think I was pretty clear, so I'm going to move on. Alright, so let me just say that before I explain what exactly I'm talking about here, I get the crux of the argument, but man, the comment section in this category just had a persecution complex that honestly didn't need to be there. So the crux of this category's argument is that other subgenres in anime and even all of television do what modern isekai do when it comes to the wish fulfillment stuff, the cringiness of it, and the attempt to kind of make fans feel good at the expense of their story. So they don't see what the problem is. In other words, isekai fans feel unfairly criticized by me and other videos like myself because people like the same kind of story beats and plot devices in literally any genre of film or television. Now, I should say that oftentimes these comments are also paired with the quote unquote "you're an SJW" sentiment, which I'll address later because I think that part is stupid and just quite frankly devoid of reality. However, the part about other genres and TV shows, not anime or anime alike, doing it too, I'm not gonna lie, I see the point. Let me use a show as an example. Over in the K-drama world, there's a show called Marry My Husband. It went about 16 episodes, and funny enough, it's adapted from a web novel. So it kind of has the same principles of an isekai, where most isekai are adapted from light novels and are made by typically a rookie writer. And you're going to see the patterns here. Anyway, let's get to the plot. Basically, the premise is that a woman named Kang Ji-won, who is terminally ill with cancer, finds her husband Min-won in bed with her best friend Soo-min, and after a fight, she is accidentally killed, but then wakes up to find she is transported to her life 10 years prior. I won't bore you with the details, so TLDR version coming up. However, before I get to that, if you do actually want to watch the series and you're into that, here's a time code to skip the spoiler-free analysis part. Alright, so Cole's Notes version, TLDR, is this. Ji-won wants to rewrite her future and avoid marrying her husband, so she tries to get her husband and best friend to marry. Well, technically at the time it was her fiance because they weren't married 10 years prior, but whatever. So that's 1. 2, turns out Ji-won's super rich boss, Ji-hyuk, was thirsty for her this entire time due to one encounter they had when they were both in college, but couldn't act on it because of reasons, and we'll get to that. However, now he can act on it because he was also isekai'd to 10 years prior. 3, Ji-won's best friend Soo-min didn't like Ji-won even from the get-go, because turns out Ji-won's piece of shit mom ran away with Soo-min's dad when they were younger, which caused Soo-min's childhood to suck because Soo-min's mom took out the pain of losing a lover out on her. 4, remember when I said Ji-hyuk couldn't really act on his feelings because of reasons? Well, one of those reasons comes to light. Turns out, he was already engaged to some woman named Yu-ra. However, that's his ex, and he already broke it off. Yet somehow, even though it's an ex, this made Ji-won mad, because of course it did. And finally, 5, don't worry about it because somehow Yu-ra and Min-hwan get killed, and Soo-min is arrested and institutionalized. So Ji-won and Ji-hyuk live happily ever after as if nothing was ever Ji-won's fault. In fact, her only issue was that she wasn't assertive enough, and definitely not her obvious character flaws that were never addressed. Alright, do you see what this is when I kind of summarize what the story is? It's trashy, wish fulfillment, modern isekai in K-drama land. And here's the thing. This K-drama went crazy. It's successful. It's on Amazon Prime. It did a ton of numbers and had a huge following on Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. So when you look at it that way, honestly, I kind of feel what isekai fans are saying and on some level agree. Everyone gets got with a wish fulfillment power fantasy story, and extra points if it's a revenge porn story on top of that. But that's where the agreement stops. I don't think people who are in this camp really understand the context, and I'll explain that now. First of all, most K-dramas are designed so that their shows only really go one season. This is due to factors like men in Korea having to do mandatory military service in their prime of life, aka their 20s, and also the jump from TV to film for most actors in Korea being a lot more common. So trashy shows that are designed to be light feel-good stories with awful plots are a lot more accepted because most times those shows only really last for 12 to 16 episodes. And that's well before the flaws of the plot become more apparent. Thus, this is a case of what the great Marshall McLuhan would say, the medium being the message. Reason why is because anime is at its best when it goes 60, 70, maybe even 100 episodes. Hell, one of the great phenomenons in our time right now is One Piece going 1,000 plus episodes. And this is why Sword Art Online got so much backlash, because a show like that is designed really for 12 episodes, but but got stretched out to 96 episodes. Whereas Marry My Husband went to 16 episodes. But speaking on that, my second point with this is that it's not like Marry My Husband was universally praised, because it also received backlash from a small but vocal minority right around episode 12 on for its dip in quality, which is the same thing modern isekai anime go through after its 12th episode. So again, it's not like people don't have the same critiques regardless of format. It's just that the other formats are really good at mitigating those critiques by cutting the anime or the TV show or film short at the point they're supposed to. But third, and this is more so my point, K-dramas and the exploration of their mainstream stories are way more diverse. For every Marry My Husband, there is a Squid Game or 8 show. For every Squid Game, there is a Shop for Killers. For every Shop for Killers, there's an Extraordinary Attorney Woo. And for every Extraordinary Attorney Woo, there is an All of Us Are Dead. All are their own original stories and diverse plot, and all have received mainstream attention, and that's the point. In K-drama, yes, there are wish fulfillment slop stories, but it doesn't take up the entire catalog, versus anime, where for a solid 7 to 10 years, modern isekai was all that you would see, whether it was a battle manga shonen type, whether it was a romance type, whether it was a comedy. All you would see is an isekai, even when it wasn't even quote-unquote isekai, because it was just wish fulfillment slop. Don't believe me? What's Dress Up Darling? What's Rent a Girlfriend? Exactly. The only thing that wasn't a story that was just 90%, if not 95% wish fulfillment, was a rehash or a new season of an older IP, like Bleach, Attack on Titan, or My Hero. So again, the problem wasn't just wish fulfillment made newer shows wouldn't. The problem is that it did that and it cornered the market in the anime industry, which we as anime fans are only starting to recover from now. Get it? Got it? Good. And since you understood, next category. So this one infuriates me not because of the category itself or because the argument is frustrating in any ways. It honestly isn't. I think the reason why this one gets me so tight is because it really demonstrates something that's wrong with the world today, and that's people's inability to hear an argument in good faith when they feel criticized. Because yes, technically depending on the season and how strict you are with the term isekai, then Sword Art Online was either non-isekai for significant parts of its run, or was never an isekai. But here's the thing, y'all, we already knew this. The point of the argument was that SAO, or Sword Art Online, is what started the anime isekai craze because every studio was looking for their SAO due to the fact that it's probably the easiest way to make money, and they found it in the conventional isekai genre because there are a lot of stories that mimic a lot of SAO story patterns and story beats, as well as like plot points to the letter. Like there's a lot of isekai that are Sword Art Online but with a twist. This is extremely clear in my video, so most people understood what I was trying to say. But there are people who will try to discredit my video because Sword Art Online is quote unquote not an isekai. I've even seen some offshoot of this argument that will lump in Mushoku Tensei with this too and say that Mushoku Tensei started the craze, when I'll tell you right now, no it didn't. First of all, if we're talking about studios in a race to pick up mangaka's work and make an adaptation, or light novelist work and make an adaptation, but neither here nor there, there was a clear shift in the industry and what the industry was looking for after Sword Art Online was picked up and worked, despite the fact that most of the isekai that were being picked up just sucked. And by the way, Mushoku Tensei benefited from that because Mushoku Tensei got picked up after Sword Art Online got popular. But second, even from just a straight up IP perspective, Sword Art Online came before Mushoku Tensei. A quick Google search will show you this, and even just looking at them, SAO is clearly influenced from the video game isekai genre or the MMORPG subgenre, like Hack Sign, which is a 2000s product, right around the time Reki Kawahara got to work on Sword Art Online originally as a self-published novel that came out in '02. So yeah, any SAO is not an isekai, or SAO did not start the craze argument in response to my video is not a serious argument. And I can't believe I spent so much time on this. Also, by the way, even if somehow Mushoku Tensei started the craze, it's not like Mushoku Tensei doesn't suffer from a lot of the issues SAO does, writing-wise. Mushoku Tensei is better than SAO in my opinion, but it's not exactly out of the woods either. There's a lot of stuff that it does that it shouldn't be absolved for. And we don't have to get into that because there's a lot of videos that have already talked about it. So, yeah. But it's funny because if we're talking about negative comments, in terms of how many there was and the volume of comments that were negative, this is the category that housed the most of them. And I think I know why. Believe it or not, there are people who like modern isekai for the exact reasons I talked about before, but they're too embarrassed to say that they like isekai for that reason. So what they do to hide their insecurities is when they see a video like mine and many other isekai critique videos from other talented creators, they consider it an attack on them and their character. So they'll defend it until they're blue in the face, even when they are wrong. Because if they can discredit my video, if they can discredit other people's videos, then that means they can keep watching isekai without feeling embarrassed about it. But here's the thing. I don't care if you like isekai. I'm not trying to attack you because, quite frankly, I don't care enough to do so. I'm not trying to be mean-spirited when I say that. I'm just saying you're allowed to like isekai. However, there's clearly a group of people that are in the majority who don't. And I'm pointing out why they don't. Fact is, what I'm trying to point out is we aren't getting any more great, long-standing, and strong IPs in the anime space because the novelists, the mangakas, the studios, and the fans are starting to only care about instant gratifications and not strong writing that can create long-term and epic stories. All we were getting during the time isekai reigned supreme when it came to new popular mainstream anime were either remakes of established IPs, a new season of an older IP, or the wish fulfillment slop whose quality falls off a cliff after 10 episodes. And when we do get something that is original and had potential, it's canned after a season because it didn't wish fulfill enough. That's my problem. We aren't getting good stories with good writing. Anime writing has declined to such a sad degree. And y'all, you wanna know what the worst part in all of this is? It's not like old school anime didn't have a lot of bad IPs to look at. There are a lot of shitty old anime out there. But my point is that there's a lot of originality and diversity in old anime when it came to the writing and the stories being told. And I miss that. In a lot of ways, I really do miss that. But now, even now that we're getting out of the isekai boom, the effects of it are still showing because we're not getting a lot of good original stories. But you know what? I'll also say that maybe we're getting saved because Kaiju number 8 and Windbreaker came out. So, I digress. Next category. Honestly, when it comes to this SJW accusation that I constantly have to deal with over and over, I don't really care about it anymore. I think I used to care about it because it almost felt like a way to dismiss my arguments and what I was trying to say to help people. But now I don't see it like that anymore. I think the people who say this were never going to listen in the first place. And I think that's fine. If people weren't going to listen, then they weren't going to listen. And that's that. What I will say though is when it comes to this kind of category that I get in any video that gets popular, I just have to kind of point out how when you say things like you're an SJW or when you call someone a woke snowflake, I can't get past the hypocrisy of that. Imagine being so mad that someone criticized a genre for its writing issues. Imagine someone criticizing something going on in the world and you get so mad because you feel like they're talking about you that you call them soft. Do you not see the hypocrisy there? The lack of self-awareness is incredible. Like, yes, I could talk about the other issues with using the term woke in a negative connotation here. I could talk about the intersectionality between anime and politics was always there, and you as an anime fan have to deal with it. If you can't, maybe this space isn't for you. I could accurately mention that my video wasn't really a politics video. I know I went on like a tangent about how there's a lot of issues with the way isekais are made from a social perspective, but I didn't really talk about politics. I could talk about the fact that people only really use the whole woke thing when they're losing an argument. I could even say that a lot of times this is a sign that you need to touch grass because most people in real life don't really care about this. And honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat more and more as I get older. I'm a grown-ass man. I got bills to pay. So my whole thing with this is don't be soft, don't be weird, just listen to the argument and the critiques. And if you have an argument about the critiques, like the last 4 categories had, then say them. Be prepared to be wrong on it and for me to debate you back, but say them. You don't have to use some political buzzword just because you're losing. Okay, now that's pretty much it for categories. I do want to spend some time speaking about something else, and it's kind of expansions on my isekai videos. So let's have like a nice little title graphic on that. What I do want to expand on is I mentioned this idea of some of the plot points that are awful with isekai that I didn't want to get into. Things like why there's always incest, things like lollies, things like the fact that a lot of times when it comes to the isekai genre, how it delves and pushes the envelope deeper and deeper into being kind of an edgelord medium. I think when it comes to Sword Art Online, it's faint enough that it has plausible deniability and in some ways actual real deniability. But the problem is that whether you believe isekai being kind of part of edgelord media is really a symptom or is the root cause of some of the issues, the fact of the matter is the anime that are pushed out today have a lot of, I would say, concerning messaging. And I think that's fine if you're willing to delve into these topics in interesting ways and in some parts challenge the feeling while also lending sympathy to it. But it just feels like we're losing a lot of tact when it comes to talking about taboo topics like anime used to have. We just don't really delve into the topics in interesting and fun ways. Rather, the messaging just tends to be nihilistic for nihilistic sake. Look, I get the world sucks, and I get that a lot of things are going wrong, but I think it's important to challenge yourself, and by extension, anime to challenge you on what you're feeling. And again, this isn't me trying to be the messaging police when it comes to anime. We used to have shoujos that would have incest in them. We used to have anime that in hindsight you look at it and you're like, wait a second, that's assault, and we were all a-okay with it. Hell, even outside the medium, in the world of reality show television and romance craze that have a lot of concerning imagery. So it's not about the imagery. The point is that anime used to be a medium in which when we talked about these things, we had interesting and very uncomfortable discussions that we just quite frankly don't have anymore. I think isekai in a lot of ways is the problem for that. Not necessarily even isekai, but more so when modern isekai kind of dominated the scene for the last decade. We lost that tact and that ability to have that conversation in the industry. My hope is that now that isekai is on a decline, we can kind of sort of get back to that. And I see in some ways we are starting to get back to that. Some of our sports animes, like Haikyuu, came out with a new season that delved a lot into things like competitiveness and things like teamwork and the right kind of teamwork and the right kind of collectivism versus the wrong kind of collectivism, which I think is cool. Kaiju number 8 is really encouraging. Windbreaker, I really like a lot, and I think it has the potential to be a GOAT of anime. So we're getting there. We are getting there. So I guess when it comes to an expansion of my points, when it comes to modern isekai, I would say that although I think there's a place for isekai-like shows in the new age and in the age where isekai is on its decline, I want to see anime get back to deeper messaging, right? It'd be nice if shows like Gundam, I mean, I'm talking old school Gundam, like Gundam Wing and Gundam Seed, were to come back into anime. It'd be fun if we got shows like Saint Seiya, shows like Hard Captors, shows even in the slice of life genre that are really, really good. Like, imagine a sket dance in today's world. But you know what? I'm starting to ramble on and on, so I'll stop. Let's call it. This is, I think, a good spot to call the video. And yeah, sorry I was away for so long, by the way. Work got extremely busy. I work a lot of jobs, and one of them made me sick. So I'm going to try to be more consistent in the future so that in the event I do get sick or that something happens, I have a lot more of these videos in the bank to just release. Also, if you're wondering why my voice is a bit different in this video, I did make a promise to some people that are in my inner circle that I was going to start making videos in a natural flow of speaking, because when I do get sick, it's hard to use my corporate voice, so to speak. So that's why I sound a bit different. If you liked it, let me know. But yeah, I think I would go with this style more often. Alright, Mandem, Geldem, let's call it later. Thank you for watching to the end if you did. And until next time, see you soon.